Oh no, that's bro from Jamaica. I met bro like 2 months ago. I know who that is. Yeah, you over there in Jamaica right now? Yes, sir. Peace and love, man. I'm glad you tapped in, man. See, that's why you gotta stay consistent. You gonna tap in eventually when life gets settled. You feel me? We linked in, like we never left. But yes, but I did meet him at the doing a pop up over there in Long Beach, and I told him about the organization. All right, so today I'm gonna go into a demonstration. Brother Kyle L has a demonstration lined up. Um, like I say, just interrupt me, any statements, questions, and we'll get into that as well. Yeah, we got some stuff lined up. I know Kyle L got some heat lined up. He go from just his first demonstration. Now he on fire. He back to back weeks. That's a beautiful thing, man. All right, so I'm gonna start the demonstration off by playing a video to lay the foundation for my demonstration. So let's get into it.
Prophet Noble Ali, because Prophet Noble Ali had congressmen and all of these people helping fund the movement as well, take care of people who weren't even in the movement.
Before I continue, did everybody hear the audio? Everybody was hearing the brother speak, brother Seer?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
People who was just, poor, melanated or whatever, who may not be Moors but needed help. So he established the Moorish American Manufacturing Company. Like, he was making heavy moves. So that was interfering with what was happening in places like Jekyll Island and what you call it, in Langley, and places like, or what would be Langley, and places like that. So they had to eventually find a way to get rid of him. So they used they used a dirty Moor named J. Edgar Hoover, who was a melanated man. And
he was a Moor as well.
Yeah.
Wow. So wait, are the Shriners Moors?
They are no. Technically they are the subjects of the Moors because they have all agreed to acknowledge the ruler who is the Sultan or the Grand Sultan within their little club. That's why they dress up like Moors and wear the names of Moors who own the fez with the writing on it though. See, when you see with the writing on it, the name on the fez represent the Moor or the clan or the motto that owns the person who's wearing that. That's why the fez is also on their joint is tacked down because they can't revolve in a 360-degree arena because they have chosen to go the left-hand path. And in the left-hand path, you do things in celebration of you celebrate your enemy by mocking them.
All right. So I wanted that to be the prerequisite to my demonstration. In summary, a couple bullet points that the brother was trying to, make known. One, when we're talking about the fraternal order or the Masonic Lodge, they're wearing Moroccan headdresses, Moorish headdresses, but they are marked, typically with the crescent and the scimitar over it facing down. The brother Asir is showing the origin of how Freemasonry got started. Our Slavs, people that are commonly referred to as white today, were in a position, not politically as a Slav, but that nationality wise, they were Slavic. The women were the harem. They were under the jurisdiction of the noble families of Moors, and they didn't really have, like I said, the Moors taught them how to bathe. They taught them how to use the stars for navigating the sea. You know, government structure, anything you can think of. We had to civilize these people. So the ones that we did civilize, we put fezzes on them and marked it. We marked their fez so we can distinguish what Moorish royal house they belong to, which Moorish clan they belong to. Was it Granada? Was it Cordova? Was it Tripoli, Tunis? Jurisdictions? Who these Slav? What? Because these were Slavs. They belong to Moorish families. So we gave them signs and symbols that meant something, but that's it. That's all it was. We didn't give them the origin. We just gave them the signs and symbols, carpenter's tools, winding staircase, the pillars, Haram Habib story. That's why they can only go 33 degrees. That's why their tassel is pinned down. It can't go 360 degrees because they don't have 360 degrees of information. All right. So I wanted to let that be the foundation before I get into my piece. Any thoughts, questions before I get started? And Brother Larry Bay, peace and love.
Peace and love, peace and love.
Peace and love, Larry Bay.
Peace and love, bro. Hey, Mafi, I did want to say one thing to what you had, what you're presenting. Just had a thought just now. It's kind of interesting because when you think about it, if I'm not mistaken, I believe masonry is international around the world, but you only, and I could be wrong, but commercially, I believe you only see the Shriners do their parades or outside with those marked fezzes from Europe all the way back to America. And I was sitting here thinking, like, man, if it's only marked and it's only in the regions or in the lands of Eurasia and America, which we know is Morocco, that shows you right then and there that where our Moorish Empire started and where it went to. You know what I mean? But I could be wrong, but I don't think I've ever seen no Shriners publicly in no other sides of the continents. No parades or whatever.
Not the parade.
You're not the parade. I know the parade in Philadelphia, but there are what you call the Egyptian Shriners or whatever the full name is, Royal Order of Egyptian Shriners or whatnot. That's a worldwide fraternal order. So
But I don't think you see them like parading around though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I did meet someone in Mexico.
Well, yeah. When she went to Mexico, she met somebody from
Both.
the Shriners. He was from two lodges actually. He had it stamped on his coat.
He was all dripped out. He
Yeah.
had like necklaces. He had his hat on. That's how I was able to tell. He was all the signs and symbols. And then actually, it's so funny. So I saw him over at the airport, and then I was like, "Oh, okay." I talked to him a little bit, exchanged information because I had questions. He's been in the lodge and stuff since the '80s, and we were kind of exchanging information. I was kind of seeing where, like, what this was about, and he was explaining to me. I was like, "Okay." And then I go to my hotel. I'm like, "Okay, well, we'll connect later." I go to the hotel. He pulls up at the same hotel. We end up seeing each other. We're staying at the same spot in Mexico. So I felt like that was pretty divine because I feel like there was some kind of, we could have a meeting and kind of talk to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and peace and love to Hanuna Bay, Kiat Bay.
Peace and love, peace and love.
Peace and love, Morris.
I think I greeted everybody. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the origin of the whole Freemasonry from a different angle. And it's imperative to know this because as we continue to evolve in this space, remember the world is changing. We're in Aquarian age, so everything's coming out regardless. We're just ahead of the curve and we have opportunity to do great things in this, changing of the guard. As you can see, the brother right here in the interrelated video, you see what happening over there with the nationalization, what they're doing, and how the brother got the gold, and he pretty much doing what Gaddafi was trying to do. He doing it right now. So you see, the world is changing. It's a lot of cover up. If you're not in these places that the media is covering, you don't know the uncut how what's really going on to the specifics. Even this story, it's out there, but let's believe there's more to it than they talking about. But we got enough pieces to know that he's trying to control the resources on his own land, and they got a problem with it over here. We know that much. So the world is changing everywhere, not just over there. That's just what we're getting a glimpse of. But all around the world, it's a nationalization movement, and we boots on the ground in America, so we're dealing with the quote unquote minorities, Black, Latinos, Hispanic. That's where we at. So we're gonna do our part in our region, and the world gonna come together. I know I kind of drifted off a little bit, but I think it was all relative still. But
No.
yeah, that's free.
Mm-hmm. Islam, can I say something on that? Yeah. So that's what I've been looking at. I've been kind of gravitated to that for a minute. What's going over there in Africa? But you know what? Something in my spirit just kind of want us to look at it a little bit deeper. It's almost like it's too good to be true, right? That all of a sudden that's happening. So as I was kind of streaming through YouTube, I found out that, so Russia is really kind of backing Africa. And I didn't realize that. Okay, so well, that of course he had to have some help. But the thing we gotta watch is, are they giving up colonization to the Europeans, and giving another power, somebody else control? Even if Russia is being assisting him in some kind of way, he still has the whole agenda to help his country and to help his people, and to change the mindset of the rest of Africa, which is good. That's all good. I mean, if he needs the help to get the military together, to get the tanks, to get his mines and stuff built so that they can start mining their own stuff and all that, that's cool. But yet we got to still watch, because Russia is in there somewhere to help out, and protecting him. He done had 24 assassination attempts, and how does he get away with that, to not get killed? So somebody's helping him, and of course, and I looked into it, and Russia has got their hand in there, but we don't know how deep. And I would hope to say that even if they are allowing Russia, they assist them to make this world order and this a change for Africa, that he stands on, okay, well, we'll give you so much of our gold, or we'll give you so much power, but we basically gonna take over and all of Africa is getting ready to stand up and become sovereign to the whole world. So this is a good, so everybody's got their eyes on this situation. And plus, Russia has a lot of control over the media. And if you notice on these YouTubes, it's a lot of media popping up about this whole thing. And so Russia is pushing that too for Africa, which is good. That's good. But at the same time, we still have to realize that, when something good like this comes, it's not coming just that easy. You understand?
Right.
Can I interject? Can I interject as well?
Okay.
Yes. I wanted to add on that, as far as my knowledge is concerned, no, as far as my knowledge is concerned, I don't know if Russia has ever been a colonizing nation.
Mm-hmm.
But also, they're only providing the military assistance at this moment. So what Mali did, they created their own, some quote unquote United States of Africa. So now it's Mali, Niger, and Kino I can't never pronounce that name of that country where he's at. So they formed an alliance.
Burkina Faso.
Yeah, there you go. So now they have
Okay.
formed an alliance of somewhat. Also, the West and the European powers are actually fading at this moment. They're actually all fading. So that's another reason why I know this is absolutely going to happen because of that. In Ethiopia, Ethiopia has formed an alliance. Ethiopia is the only African nation that was not colonized. And actually, Ethiopia is a first world nation, and they're stepping in and they're providing assistance on several levels as well. So it is. Look, one last thing too is that you actually have an RV that's scheduled to happen. And it's coming up pretty soon. An RV meaning a currency re-evaluation. So all the currencies are or they're going to level the playing field where all currencies go one to one with one another. So when this happens, no one is going to actually be having an advantage over no one because all currencies will go one to one at that moment. So keep an eye out on that. That's what's going on right now too. Is the currency reevaluation is taking place at this very moment.
Islam nobles and noblists.
Mm-hmm.
I just got one thing to say. This is Kiao Bey. This sounds like, I listen to a lot of Taj Tariq Bey and study off of what he converses on YouTube. This sounds like a subject matter jurisdiction of nationality diversity and the in personam jurisdiction of whose pedigree over who, and the territorial jurisdiction of which parts of the land do they, have. And since, the Vatican has been falling, the United States have been, how do I say, closing their jurisdictional grabs over us. And you know, with that being said, the landmass that they come from, like the Asian continent, um, there's a lot of business influx over there because they don't de jure own that land either. So I digress with that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a lot going on. It's a lot going on, and I like the energy that we are able to actually watch with our own eyes now that we are all enlightened, about who we are and where we're trying to go, in our spirituality and waking up the people. But so I just really hope that we can see some change in our time, some major changes. 360 degrees.
I want to add that Africa dealing with Russia too. That has to kind of do with the BRICS that's been going. So you have a unification kind of with that to kind of basically balance out powers with the West. So keep that in mind as well.
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to say exactly. That's what I was referring to as far as the RV is concerned. The BRICS play a major part in that. So in order for countries to go into the BRICS, they have to have a natural resource to back their currency. So right now you have all these countries around. You have countries like Vietnam. You have, for example, Indonesia. What else? Thailand. All these nations, they're rich in resources, but their currencies is vastly undervalued. Iraq is another country that is about to revalue their currency, and this is where they're saying like the shift in wealth is going to take. That's going to be part of the shift in the wealth process as well for those who do have and hold those foreign currencies. You will then be able to go into the banks and exchange them one to one for other currencies for the U.S. dollar per se. So that's why I was saying, watch out because this is actually taking place along with the BRICS and everything else going on. I yield.
Islam.
Islam.
All right. So the prerequisite of Duke Seer Seer the Duke of Tears, laying the foundation of the origin of the fraternal order, the lodge. Now we know that these were Moorish noble families, clans that were taking a couple of these Slavs and giving them higher degrees. We put fezzes on them and marked those fezzes with the tribe they were associated with, a royal house that they were associated with, the community of high priests that they were associated with. So fast forward to today. Oh, we also gave them allegorical signs and symbols, but didn't give them 360 degrees of information. That's why they only go high as 33 degrees. We need to know that historical backdrop. So when we're dealing with any type of Masons in real time, we know that we're the ones that they're praising the secret, the high ranking ones, like on the Shriner level, Eastern Star, etc. High level Masons that are running the government, they understand the origin as we speak on it. And you just got to show and prove by your demonstration that you're the noble. And then they'll bow down to it in actuality. It sounds easier than it is, but I mean, it sounds easier said than done, but that is the reality. If we have communities of our people that know this information, unite behind it, set up businesses, create institutions of learning. You can come to the temple and learn ancient practices, breathing exercises, yoga, your culture, history, be farming. It's a community of that. Remember, it's an international movement. It's going to attract international people to what we're doing, you know. So let's go into, now that we know that backdrop, let's go into some more origin of the concept of a fraternal order that we created, but it wasn't low vibrational at this time, as it is today. So the Orientalist Stanley Lane Poole acknowledged the great impact Moorish civilization had on Europe when he wrote The Moors in Spain and the Moors after Spain. Also study Imam Mustafa El-Amin definitive books titled Freemasonry, Ancient Egypt, and the Islamic Destiny, and Islam, Christianity, and Freemasonry, analyzing Freemasonry from a Muslim and Islamic perspective. Moreover, Professor Jose Pimenta Bay, PhD, said in one of his videos, Othello's Children in the New World, stated that, quote, originally Prince Hall Masons were known as the Moorish Rite Masons. And with this said, written, our Supreme Grand Commander, Alim Bey El Dey. So this is cross-reference to support the information we just came across right now. Quote, so hence comes Moorish Freemasonry renewal. Well, Moorish Rite Freemasonry or Freemasonry, as was practiced by ancient Moors, owes its present-day existence to the late let me let the brother in the Clifford E. Hazel, Sovereign Grand Commander and Supreme Council, Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry of the Southern and Western Hemisphere. The Scottish Rite of Freemasonry in the Western Hemisphere, who encouraged some of the Freemasons in this jurisdiction to develop Moorish lodges based on Moorish culture and historical perspective. In late July 1998, Brother Alim Bey of the Moorish Rite Freemasonry and Nazir Ali jointly petitioned the Sovereign Grand Commander for a charter. The charter was granted September 19, 1999. Moorish Rite Freemasonry today is evolved, reemerged of an ancient Moorish fraternal and didactic legacy. In addition, contrary to whatever perceptions exist, Moorish Rite Freemasonry is not of an innovation of any contemporary Masonic rite. Its roots anchor in remote antiquity. All right, so that's just a little backdrop before we get into the ancient pharaohs, Moses, and Thutmose. I ain't gonna assume everybody knows Moses. The full term is Thutmose. You know, they say Moses in the Bible, but it's actually depicting a pharaoh of quote unquote Egypt, which we already know from the temple lessons is just saying Tamaray, which is just Latin for terra, land, Moray, Latin, land of the Moors, aka the Egyptians. All right, so this was a pharaoh or a high elected official vice regent, sultan, emir, caliph, some type of title, Thutmose III, pharaoh who ruled Tamaray. Brother DL, peace and love. Who else came
Love.
All right, so Pharaoh Thutmose III, who ruled Tamaray, or Egypt, from 1500 to 1447 BC. And keep in mind of these dates. Timelines are crucial for scholarship. If we're saying 1500 to 1447 BC, and we went over this in previous demonstrations, that's the time frame of the Olmecs, the pyramid builders of Mexico City, Belize, Peru, right? This ancient Egypt, right? So that's why we say it's imperative that law and history go together. These things pop out to you no matter, even if it's said like this, right? That's why all these mummies and tombs in the Grand Canyon were found, right? Cocaine mummies. This type of information, when you're speaking to the people, to the general public, it make them use their cognitive faculties, logical faculties, like, oh man, you know what? You're right. That makes sense. All the oldest pyramids in the world is in America. So if we're talking about Thutmose and Nefertiti and all these ancient pharaohs, we're talking about over here. It makes sense. It corresponds to the timeline of the dynastic period called the intermediate period. Now we're getting specific, right? But people don't know timelines and don't know history and law. Now they can be like, oh, it's the Canaanites. Oh, it's the Egyptians. Oh, it's the Israelites. Oh, it's the Cushites. And people thinking it's all these different people. These are just foreigners talking about the Moors in a different perspective. Throw you off, fractionalizing everything. Brother Hassan, peace and love.
Peace and love, everybody.
Peace and love, Moors.
All right, so Pharaoh Thutmose, who ruled Tamaray, 1500 to 1477 BC, organized the first esoteric schools of initiates founded upon principles and methods similar to those perpetuated today by the Rosicrucian Order, AMAR, Astara, and other secret societies. Decades later, Pharaoh Amenhotep IV was initiated into the secret school. This most enlightened pharaoh, history's first recorded monotheist, was so inspired by the mystery teachings that he gave a completely new direction to craft of Amun-Ra's Egyptian religion and philosophy. He established a religion which recognized the Atum, the solar disk. Like the solar disk, that's on a lot of the quote-unquote Egyptian deities. It's a solar disk, right? It's being the symbol of the sole deity, the foundation of life itself, the symbol of light, truth, and joy, and changed his name to Ankh-Aton to reflect these new ideas. And although the earlier religion was later reestablished, the mystical idea was put forth in human consciousness, and its flame never died. So let's go into another paragraph, and then I'll summarize this aspect or this part of the demonstration. So Pharaoh Atum is credited with the establishing of Freemasonry. Queen Nefertiti of ancient Kemet, Tamaray, reigned alongside her husband Pharaoh Akhenaten around 1380 through 1362 BC. Queen Nefertiti is credited with founding the Freemason adoptive rite known as the Order of Eastern Stars. That information was provided by the most pursuant sovereign Grand Commander, Clifford E. Hazel. I think it was an L. I said he was an L on the top. So my point of bringing this up is the origin of everything comes through us. So we created a society of a secret society, esoteric societies. And if you put this together with the last couple of weeks in the temple meetings, when we're talking about the preservers of the light, the Moors were the ones that when things were falling and Rome was starting to take over, what they call the Egyptians preserve the ancient mystery systems as the world was collapsing to a low vibrational state. They were trying to great book burnings, reconstruction, making people look different. The ancient nobles, so you don't make no connection with them. All these things were happening, so it was a societies that were being developed, secret societies to preserve the information. It wasn't used for low vibrational activity as free, the orders as they are today. So we need to know that information as well. It's a lot of aspects, a lot of layers to the situation. So now you know about why the feds were marked in the first place, what that means when you see that today, the origin of it. You know that the concept of a secret society or an order, when we had it, was we would gauge people to see if they're ready for the information, where their heart was at. Boom, link up with them. Create the mystery school. Right? Build. Because things were falling around the empire. It was starting to fall. So that's that. But the fraternal orders that today is not using that information. That first of all, I don't even know the information we've been talking about on the Zoom, for one. We're coming from a higher degree than 33. Right? Most of these people don't even know nothing past the Haram Abiff story. Like I say, Boaz and Joachim, these two pillars, winding staircase, checkerboard floors, and they're very elementary. All right, so don't think they're doing nothing too major in there. Just know that the higher ups that are connected with the government is running everything. That's really the people, that's their higher ups. They know this stuff we're talking about. All right. But these people on the block, the little lodges that's on the corner and all that, they don't know what's going on. All right, so there's levels to this is all I'm saying. Any other thoughts, statements before I go to another aspect of my demonstration here? All right, so I'm going to get into the 12th. No, you know what? Let me get into the shepherd's crook. Because the brother got me onto that. So I was like, let me demonstrate the shepherd's crook. And how in the Bible, they talk about the shepherd's crook in a way that make you think, it's just leading some lambs or something. This primitive person that's just taking care of these sheep, that type of stuff. Right. Guess I can go from there. Yeah, that work. All right, so let's approach it from Psalms 23.4. We're dealing with the staff. Longer and often with a crook was used to guide and support the flock. Right. Now, of course, there's levels to this, but what I'm saying is we have to reveal the levels to the people. All right, so we're not literally talking about somebody with some sheep. All right. When you go to look at the imagery of what that's talking about, whether it's Abraham, Lot, Jesus, whoever, they're depicting them as these shepherds, the great shepherd. The images is like a thing, right? So this is a shepherd crook that they're depicting. When you think in the Bible, you're gonna think, oh man, look, they're taking a lamb. And this the level that they reduced it to. All right. And by the way, they got more garb. You see me turbaned up with the garb on. I just want to throw that in there. But check this out. What happens when you delete Bible? This is real time. No Egyptian in front of theirs. Watch what happened. I know I spelled it right.
Yeah.
Sure, I don't know. But it did the job.
Yeah,
Look.
it's okay.
All right, now look. When you take it to the Tamaray, remember Egyptian, all I did was put Egyptian in front of Shepherd Crook. But we know from the lessons that it's not Egyptian, it's Tamaray. So it's saying Moorish, so the Moorish Shepherd Crook, look what it take you to. Now it's looking like something else. Huh? It ain't looking like just the oh, he raising some sheep. This little poor person. If you had the Shepherd Crook, that means you was an elected official. You was a high priest. You was a pharaoh of that district. Right? That's why Abraham and Lot had, it wasn't just like they was carrying around these tents like some homeless person on Skid Row. No, it was thousands of people with them. The nation state was nomadic. We traveled. Lot had a jurisdiction. Abraham had a jurisdiction. Yahoo. These was high priests of the area, the seers, the nobles. That's why they had the crook, and it's carved in stone. You looking at it, not because I'm saying it. You looking at it for yourself right now. So this is how we demystify and get the spookiness in these little riddles and stories that are in these holy books for children to grasp concepts, right? But we're not children no more. We need to understand that everything goes in the Bible or any holy book for that matter ties to a noble family, a house, a clan, a dynasty, and the religious orders that we have to civilize the people that fell at that time. Ways to get them back to their higher self. Rather with Joshua was just the biggest name that that the Romans glorified for a lot of different reasons that we won't necessarily have to get into today, but y'all get the point, right? All right, so this is we talking about the shepherd's crook. That's what we're talking about. So now, well, I'll leave it right there because the brother got another demonstration. Not because there's a lot of layers to this. I just don't want to keep going forever.
Hey, Mark, can I interject right fast?
Yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of Freemasonries, right? Freemasons. Well, if you don't know, guys, that the president, so-called president, he's a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason. So I just read an article where he's reinstating Columbus Day back to its original, back to its original meaning, dates, everything. So that kind of just blew my mind when I read that. But yeah, he's reinstating that so-called holiday. So I just wanted to throw that in right fast with the Freemasonry topic. I'm yielding.
You said which holiday?
Columbus Day.
Oh.
Yeah, he's reinstating it. He just made an announcement. He's reinstating it back to where it was originally, its intent, everything. The discovery of the new world. We all know that's all bogus.
Wow.
Right. But yeah, he's that's what he's planning on doing. I yield.
Wow. Any thought statements on the shepherd's crook? Everybody feeling on the shepherd's crook?
Hey, I got one question.
Mm-hmm.
What's that tool on the opposite side of the crook? What's that called? That's the on
the other one,
on the Moorish, yeah, the Moorish crook.
One. The feather on it.
Yeah, what's that fan looking thing? Yeah.
Either those three feathers actually. Yeah, that's three feathers.
Is that okay? Because I'm studying. I started studying today. The Tree of Life, the Kabbalah, basically the Jewish the mystic part of Judaism.
Right.
And it was showing, and when I seen that symbol, it just made me think of I'm trying to find it right now. It made me think of this symbol that's in the Morse Hebrew alphabet. I believe it's the shin that makes the sh sound or the s sound, and they were showing how that symbol, how it also is full of some mystic science that's in the Bible and that ties into the tree of life too. So, and then yeah, I was kind of observing that cane too. That crook, it looked like a cane, like for older folk, which older folk represent wisdom.
Yes, sir.
Which kind of tied back into the Blue Bible by Crip Jesus and the Crips and whatnot, wearing them canes and stuff. Or using them canes or rocking them canes or whatever. Or the Kappas and the Kappa Alphas or the Alpha Kappa, whatever that fraternity is called.
See, it's clicking.
Yeah, so if I'm not mistaken, then from what we've been taught, they in that high council they would be considered the Israelites or the Jews, correct?
Right, and then we learned from, I think it was last week or the week before, that metaphysical Bible Israelite, the ones that have the light, or the illuminated ones, and then that tied to
Right.
the keepers of the light, Freemason, right? The Freemason, the original Freemason. It what they call Egyptian means the keepers of the light, or the ones that have the light. So that's just the noble families of the Moors, the high priests, right? So, but yeah.
So to add on to that, my fault. Go ahead, bro.
No, go ahead. You got it.
Well, to add on to that, if was interesting, if you peep game at the aprons of the Masons, all of them are squared, right? Which is not the actual true cut of the Moorish apron, or how our aprons were as Moors. But the Grand Master's apron is the only apron that has what do you call it? Fringes. Fringes, which is the representation in the Bible of how the Israelites are supposed to be recognized. So like the Hebrew Israelites that walk the street, that's why they wear those fringes. And then like when you look into American Moorish American or American Indian culture, you see the fringes on the ends of their garments. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just kind of piecing it all together in my head. But just from what I experienced, when I was going through that process, just all of that stuff is just adding together. So that just makes sense as to why Donald Trump even in secret he became a Jew. He took an oath and became a Jew. That I don't think a lot of people know about that. But he became a Jew while he was in secret, and then he just now revealed it not too long ago.
What?
Yeah, he's a Jew. He took his oath to become a Jew. He got the hat, whatever that little hat is they wear, and everything.
Okay, so
they all got to do that though. They all got to take that. All presidents, they got to do that, so they know not to reveal certain things. They got to know the game,
I think Asir the Duke of Tears, one of his latest ones, he covered that ceremony of Donald Trump doing that. But they all pledge and take an oath to Israel. Israel, they'll tell you that they got all the politicians and everybody in their back pocket. So they all take like the oath to them.
I wanted to highlight too. Let's do the shepherd's crook in the Bible. Look at that. Look at the animation, right? They all shepherds with the crook in their hand, right? For the children to see. But look what they got on. You see what they got on? That's Moorish garb. That's what fascinates me, is that they're in Moorish garb, depicting these shepherds. And when you look at, where was I? When you look at the ancient Aryans, there you go. Yeah, look at us. When you say in the ancient Saudi Arabians, the ancient Aryans, it's gonna take you. Well, first of all, I'm not gonna assume y'all know that. So let's get into the etymology of Aryan before I continue my demonstration. So Aryan, Latin area, names applied in classical times to the eastern part of ancient Persia and to its inhabitants. Ancient Persians used the name in reference to themselves. So Iran. So when you say Iran, it's that's what they're implying. So that the ancient Aryans or the ancient Iranians, the Moors that were in that area, they loosely refer to, the original Persians. So most people think Aryan, like, oh, blonde hair, blue eyed people, that's the Aryan brothers. And remember, they have no origin. They got everything from us. Right. And it also applies to the Arient, like, which was another society that we created that was in harmony with Aries. So that's just another lens. But for right now, the reason I'm showing you Iran is because in Sanskrit now we're dealing with what? The noble. So look, Iran. Ultimately, you can take it more ancient now. Let's take it to Sanskrit. Now it's Arya, right? Which translates to noble of good family. So the ancient Aryans were the nobles that had the houses and the dynasties in the area of what they call now today Iraq, all that area. But that's why when we dealt with them, we tell them, oh, look, we know that y'all ancestors, the Sumerians, or it wasn't Iraq, it was Mesopotamia. Now you're getting back to the noble families that was in that area, the Moors, the ancient Iranians. So now I get that backdrop. Now we got information to look at these photos now that I'm about to show you. Now keep this in mind of the shepherd. Remember, everybody dressed like the shepherds? Blow this up. That's the shepherds in the Bible, right?
Mm-hmm. Hey, Marv, I got a question.
That's on.
Can you hear me, Marv?
Yeah, Islam, I can hear you, Brother Hassan.
Okay, so I got a question. So if the term in which I was, which I thought I knew was Aryan, why do they still use that term loosely if that isn't the truth?
Same thing why the KKK uses the swastika, and you think it's a term of, like, not you personally, but why our people think that's a term of hate when that's an ancient sign that, that's on Buddhist temples right now. Any ancient culture,
Correct.
same, you know what I mean? Same reason. We're lacking knowledge. We just don't know. And also, that's a Freemason. Remember, that's a Masonic ritual, is to mock you, throw the truth out there. You think it's against you. You think this is against me. That's a hate sign. Same thing with the Confederate flag. We the original Confederates. All the Confederate tribes, the Iroquois Confederation. These are all what they call tribe, but was nation states and clans that united together once the foreign invasion started taking place in the Americas. We formed confederations. But fast forward today, our people are running from the Confederate flag. Oh my God, that's a symbol of hate. You know what I mean? So that, I wanted to add that in there because I'm recording and, it drills home the point.
Well, obviously, to second that, Brother Marv, obviously I'm under the wrong perception, and so are the people who hang the flag, because when they hang that flag, they're usually people who don't deal with Moorish people of any type of descent, half or whatever, or full-blooded, whatever. They're very, very, very racist. You know what I'm saying? So,
That's
but
how
I
they hold
appreciate the information.
Yeah.
Islam Nobles to help build on
Islam.
our topic. Yeah, that's straight up blood right and birthright theft. You know what I'm saying? They've been practicing it since they've been here. And we gotta, identify who we are so that we recognize that they've just been stealing our identity because they have to be questioned on who they really are by blood right.
Look at it, right? You looking at the Moorish attire that's in these Bibles. This the brother right here. Right here, this Sultan Abdulaziz. That's who's in the interface of the Circle Seven. That's who Noble Jew Ali put in the Circle Seven. He was one of the last sultans of the House of Saudi. What they call Saudi Arabia today, right? These are sultans. Right? And then what the 101 say? What's the head of a Moorish state? A sultan. Right? If it's a sultan, it's the head of a Moorish state. Anybody saying that they're sultans or they're like not saying they were elected by the people to be a sultan, that's a Moorish state, right? So if it's a caliphate, that's a Moorish state. If it's a Khanate, it's a Moorish state. So once again, once we know law and history, all these things come together. This clarity just comes. So when you see this Saudi drip, you see what they're wearing? That's our stuff. That's Moorish garb. We got fez, turban, the halo rings over the right. That's what these are. To hold this down, it's a halo ring, signifying that you activated the crown chakra. This is our culture. We need to understand why when people are wearing these things, and that is ours. That's the that's the big key. And we got communities that know this information. We're the high priest today in real time. We're the knowers, the seers. We the ancient ones right now. We back having this physical experience right now. That's why we on the Zoom call. So when we saying we trying to, do a community land trust, we trying to do a community land trust, and we trying to get land and housing. That's the vision. Is to get that's incremental steps to get it back to this picture. So more need to be supporting it, being down with it.
Yo,
Right.
Muv,
Islam.
Islam, bro, have you ever heard of Hitler being a Moor? I ran into some information on that could possibly help Brother Hassan. I'll probably send it to you a little later, Brother Hassan, or I'll put it in the chat. But I came across this whole article that was basically showing how Hitler was actually a Moor. And that's why he barely showed his face or whatever. And they
Yo,
had
you gotta send me that. You gotta send me that, bro. You got to send me that, bro.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the chat for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna double down on that. Yeah, I read something to that extent as well, as far as his admiration for Moors. Because if you notice, his army, his brigade, they all wore the fez. It wasn't actually red, but it was shaped as the fez itself. And then they also adopted the swastika. But anyway, that's another topic, man. I just wanted to throw that
Yeah,
in.
y'all blowing my mind with that one. Y'all blowing my mind with that one. So yeah, please put that in the chat, a link or something that I can write that down and research that because yeah, that's crazy.
Now, are you seeing these visuals?
That opens up a whole like.
I have a question for the chat. Are y'all seeing this? Do you see these two brothers against the wall?
Definitely do.
These are Saudi Arabians.
They
These are
look like
Saudi, right? Crenshaw Western at the bus stop, right?
some-
Come on, man. The jug is up. The game is over. This is an era, right?
If Hitler really was a Moor, bro, that really opens up a big can of worms as far as him trying to eliminate the Jews who they say they are Jews but are not. You know what I'm saying? That's real deep, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wanted to add in that many of those nations there in the quote unquote Middle East, Yemen, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and so forth, they basically are carbonated, very sun-kissed people that's in that area. The majority of them are of that phenotype.
Are you seeing this picture I'm showing? Islam. Y'all seeing this?
Yeah, but they don't show them type of pictures. They always show the Slavic looking Arabs. They don't show the real Arabs.
Right. So
Yeah,
I guess
you a wild man for that Crenshaw Western at the bus stop.
I mean,
yeah, that was funny, yo. I tried to hold my laugh, man.
I ain't never been to Crenshaw Western, but that just I think we all seen plenty Crenshaw Westerns.
Bean pies or something. I'll give him something. You know what I mean?
Hey, Hassan, you can look in your own backyard. Look, for example, Cuba. They would never show you the dark skinned Cubans. They only show you the fair skinned, the ones that they try to sell to the world. you know, as far as their tourism and everything is concerned, they're going to sell you that phenotype. They're not going to show you the dark-skinned, sun-kissed Cubans that live on that island, which is many.
Yep. And now y'all know, right? The rings that's holding the Moorish drip down, crown.
I always thought that was like a crown, like you was a prince or something. But
yeah,
I never looked at it in that aspect when you were saying that's a sign of it, that you've opened the crown chakra. But a lot of dudes, they have some type of royalty. Am I wrong or what? When they wear the thing up on top of their head.
Yeah, that too. Yep. These are royal priests, high priests of the area, the noble families. So yeah, all of the above. You know,
it's
but
like our culture has been taken from us, the originals, and scattered all over the whole face of the planet. It's not like, you know, that's what it seemed like to me. Like the Buddhists, they got a little bit of our stuff. The Hindus got a little bit of our stuff. Everybody got a little bit of our stuff, man. Everywhere, you know what I'm saying? So it's like you basically got to dibble and dabble in all sorts of different sciences and knowledge to really, you know what I'm saying, form it like Voltron, my guy. Like, it's a lot, bro.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
And see how the Moorish paradigm is the only paradigm that can unite humanity, because we're the only ones
no division.
Yeah, there's no vision. So we know first of all, we know the information. We know the information to explain the unity. See, most groups don't even know this information to tie it in. That's why we gotta know the history and law.
And I mean, can we call them groups, Mob? Because if you really do the knowledge right, Judaism, Judah, Buddhism, Buddha, everything is named after somebody. You know what I'm saying? You get where I'm coming from. Moorish science is original in just its divine name itself. It's not after nobody or after an image that somebody did or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Islam to that. Islam. That is. Yeah, that's real Islam. Islam to that.
Word.
I want to add what Hassan said. Like, yeah, like with the Jews, what they said with Judah, you know, for the tribe of Judah, well, that's just a tribe in Israel, and they just kept the commandments as well as the Abrahamic faith did. So, like, basically, if a person kept the ways of the Most High, it would be, the Jews would be doing nothing different. You get what I'm saying? But if a person is looking at Jews as in jewels of the Most High, then that still goes in the same thing of in the covenant. Because whether you were consider yourself Judah, as the tribe of Judah, again, that tribe would have no different laws that was given to anybody else. Basically, that's what I'm saying. And I yield.
So all in harmony. That's why we can't forget that. Remember back to the Freemason. That's what they call in Egyptian language for the ones that had the light. That's why I went to the metaphysical Bible dictionary. It was the Israelite one that got the light. Oh, so it's the same people. The people that had the light activated the crown chakra, used that to balance themselves and the community and government structure. The people that set up the empires, us the Moors, right? And remember, we created religion for our people that fell into their lower self. Every era of time had one of our people that were considered prophets or messengers of the light in different time frames to raise our people up that fell. Every era of time. So that's why we say we do honor our prophet, because we know from the Moorish perspective that Jesus is Yahshua ben Yosef, and great grandmother was Ruth the Moabitess, and he was an actual man that raised the consciousness to get people back in order. Same thing with, people that had people had the Buddha degree, people that activated the Christ in our communities. That's what it's about. It's activating the Buddha degree, the Christ degree. Because we're saying the same thing. We got the light. Exactly. Right. So if we understand it like that, we don't get caught up in, we know all religions is all one expression to get you back to your higher self, right? So the Moors can say it like that. We're the only people that can say it like that and unite the whole world, right? Because we know we're not in the matrix. We on the mountaintop. Our perspective is different from people on the ground. We can see from a unique position, right? We've been to the mountaintop. And we're not connected to the vampire where we worried about, oh, getting this out, we're not in bed with him, right?
Right.
So we ain't got to worry about, oh man, we've been talking about Morris Iron from the jump, from the beginning. This is what it is. We're over here, So that's why it's imperative that the social media reflect everything, reflect that you live in a Morris lifestyle, because they do the sniff test out here to see who's authentic and what's their agenda behind what they're doing. All right, so I just want to throw that out there. I'm gonna close out my piece with 12 Powers of Man, and then pass the floor to the good brother Kyle L. So the subconscious realm in man has 12 great centers of action with 12 presiding egos or identities. When Jesus had attained a certain soul development, he called 12 apostles to him. This means that when man is developing out of a mere personal consciousness into spiritual consciousness, he begins to train deeper and larger powers. He sends his thought down into the inner centers of his organism, and through his word quickens them to life. Where before his powers have worked in the personal, now they begin to expand and work in the universal. This is the first and second coming of Christ spoken of in the scriptures. The first coming is the receiving of the truth, receiving of the light into the conscious mind. And the second coming of Christ is the awakening and the regeneration of the subconscious mind through the superconscious or Christ mind. Man expands and grows under divine evolution as an industrial plant grows. As the business expands, it is found that system is necessary. Instead of one man being able to do the work with the assistance of a few helpers, he requires many helpers. Instead of a few helpers, he needs hundreds. And in order to promote efficiency, he must have heads or heads of the department for the various departments of the work. Scripture symbology calls the heads of departments in man's consciousness the 12 apostles. Each of these 12 department heads has control of certain function in soul or body. Each of these heads work through an aggregation of cells that physiology calls the ganglionic center. All right. So before I continue with that, let's actually look at the ganglionic center. And peace of love to Benjamin Bay as well. So let's look at the ganglionic center.
Peace and love, Morris.
Love.
There we go. All right. So ganglion function, group of neuron cell bodies. Ganglia function at the relay station and nervous system. The connection, they connect different parts of the peripheral and central nervous system. Ganglia often form plexus, like solar plexus, by interconnecting with other ganglia. They allow nerves to enter and leave simultaneously. Ganglia control the functioning of organs and glands as part of the autonomic nervous system. All right, so we're talking about this 12 stations within, right? Remember, we're tying this in metaphysically because just the face value, people looking like, oh, the 12. Let me go back to the book. I forgot what the 12 the 12 apostles. And the Bible is saying, oh, this is 12 apostles, Jesus and 12 apostles. Right. And now you rock to sleep with this story that they're giving you for children. Remember, we talked about earlier in the meeting. That's for children now, for principles. Now we adults, we get in the metaphysical meeting because remember, as above, so below, as within, so without. We're talking about the within of the holy book aspect. We can't just be stuck on one degree. It's 4 of them. Above, below, as within, so without. So we're dealing with the 12 apostles right now. That's what we're dealing with. Or aspects of that. All right, so now you know now you know what the ganglion function. So let's go to some images just to drill it home. All right, so we're talking about the center in the brain that controls not only the nervous system, all right, emotional state and cognitive abilities. You know, you being able to give yourself command swiftly. Your electrolytes, your thoughts is electrical. All right, so if it's not proper electricity flowing, that means typically your body's not alkaline enough. You're not as sharp as you could be compared on the other side. All right, so all this stuff is relative rather. All right, so we're dealing with the 12 apostles and a more esoteric, well, yeah, I guess that too, metaphysical aspect. All right. So now we know each of these heads work through an aggregation of cells that physiology called the ganglionic center. Now we went into that. Now we know what that's about. Jesus, the I am, our central entity, has his throne in the top head, right? The crown, right? We talk about the crown. Well, phrenology locates spirituality. That's why this up here, this faculty of the body is where heaven is at. The lower, where hell is at, is, tied into the root area. If you're just focused on that, now you're in hell, so-called, right? This is the mountain where he so often went to pray. So hold on now. 40 days, 40 nights. All these prophets going to the mountain, right? And coming back with the gray hair and all the wisdom. You can do that within. You can meditate. That's all that's talking about. It's not a literal story. Nobody's literally going to the mountain talking to the burning bush. That's not what's literally happening. This is for children to understand concepts. It's a parable. It's anthropomorphic. All right. So when we go to the mountain, go to the mountaintop, we're going to the mountaintop for a couple of reasons. Because of the information that we know that's different from people that don't have the divine information. And then we're talking about going within to meditate. Because that's where you'll find out the answers for a lot of things.
Can I make a comment?
All right, that's on.
So when I was taking a breathwork training class, when we were actually doing our breath work, that was something that the instructor had said, because the breath work, it's kind of rigorous. So she was saying to climb up to the mountaintop. But as you're doing this breath work, you're hyperventilating yourself. What it does is that it gets you to a higher state of consciousness. So not only are you working your body, but you're trying to work your body to get to a different state of consciousness. So I just thought that it was interesting because that's exactly what that's talking about. There's certain practices that we can do to be able to get to the mountaintop and to be able to have a more expansive view. But I just wanted to make that comment just through my personal experience.
That's fine.
Can I say something to that? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So I can see that also the electrical energy that we have to control, to bring, to allow that to go, to purge through our cells, like you're saying, the anatomical part of our nervous system. But some people there's like a yin yang to that, because some people can get there and they probably go there and they're in their darker self, in their lower self, and they can bring that energy to that light, to the pineal gland, and then they can go crazy. It's like you brought so much of it up to that point where they start to, now they're talking to themselves, and then because they brought so much energy. So it's about a space You really have to be prepared, preparing your mind for that, because if you're not in the right space and you really are tampering with yourself like that, you can take yourself there and explode that pineal gland, for a negative or positive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
sorry, go ahead.
no, I just wanted to say that, and I yield.
I wanted to make a comment on that because I remember I was living at a temple before, and this woman, she had her temple and she would practice meditation, and she said the exact same thing. She said you have to be careful. And English is her second language. She actually travels around to Vietnam to like teach people meditation. But she was saying the same things, that you have to be careful when you're doing certain practices, because exactly that, you can pretty much just, a lot of energy just shoots up, and you can kind of lose touch with reality a little bit.
Yeah, we're powerful beings. We are some powerful beings. Islam.
Islam.
All right, so the mountaintop, right? So the following outline gives a list of the 12 apostles, or the faculties that they represent, and the nerve centers at which they preside. All right, so when we're dealing with Peter, the character Peter in the Bible, we're dealing with the concept of faith. We get that faith, that inspiration of faith, through the brain center. We're dealing with Andrew, we're dealing with the concept of strength. Now you're dealing with the body, or dealing with the loins, your girth, and you stomach it. A little lower than the stomach. Discrimination or judgment. James, the son of Zebedee, dealing with the pit of the stomach. When you're dealing with the love factor, you're dealing with John, or the back of the heart. We're dealing with the aspect of power. The character Philip in the Bible represents that. It corresponds to the body, dealing with the root of the tongue, because there's power in your words, right? When you speak. So you need to be in control of your tongue to control your power. Imagination. That's the character in the Bible. Bartholomew embodies that specific trait that corresponds to the between the eyes. That's what imagination is. In your behind, between the eyes, that's the pioneer, essentially. Understanding. Bible character Thomas, dealing with the body, part of the body, the front of the brain. Willpower, embodied through the character in the Bible Matthew. We're dealing with the center of the front of the brain. We're dealing with order, the character in the Bible James, son of Alphaeus. We're dealing with the navel. We're dealing with zeal, the character or person Simon the Canadian, dealing with the back of the head or the medulla. Dealing with renunciation or elimination, we're dealing with Thaddeus in the abdominal region, right? Because the abdominal, that's where you process the food and get ready for the elimination of it, right? Elimination, abdominal. Life conserver, dealing with Judas, or the regenerative function. All right, so we're dealing with metaphysical aspects of this particular holy book, the Bible. We're dealing with the 12 apostles. We're dealing with 12 areas of the mind and body, and where we need discipline areas. If we can master these areas of the body, that's your position of looking at the 12 apostles. It shouldn't be anything else, unless we're looking at it on the well, now we're looking at within. But if we're taking the 12 apostles and as above, now we're talking about the 12 constellations, the 12 signs of the zodiac. But these are just different degrees. We need to know all the degrees, so we're in harmony. We're dealing with the people and giving them information, etc. All right. Any questions on that? For pass the baton to the good brother Kyle.
No, but hold on, I'm just taking some notes.
Okay.
But wait, aren't also these people aren't also the people in the Bible are also go back to connect back to the Kemetic gods, right? So Peter is Ptah, right? Isn't that still uh, a connecting factor too with each and every one of these people? These people represent a certain god in that older or ancient time.
Well, Peter, for example, since you went that direction with it, is really Pater. If you're looking at it like that's another degree too. That is another degree. Now it's Pater, which is dealing with the Father.
Okay.
All right. Yahshua, that he was an actual man, but it's also talking about the Son. Um, who else? Let's see. The three wise men in the Bible is talking about the constellation of Orion's
Yeah.
belt. Um, so it's some people, it's some aspects that it's talking about people. Sometimes it's talking about something astronomical. It just depends. It just depends. But it also ties into, like I say, Abraham and Lot was cousins that had these tribes. So that actually happened, right? That correspond to a dynasty. And like that's what the whole shepherd crook. These are actually people, these are actually pharaohs. Moses was Thutmose. So that's that aspect too. It's a lot, you know what I mean? It's a lot of layers to it. So yeah. I guess one more round of thoughts before the good brother Khalil starts his demonstration.
Yeah, I wanted just to add, like what you said, like them being a actual people. But when you study through the word, it's again like you spoke about earlier. It's mainly about the spirit and the righteousness in a person, because you could be so called coming from that bloodline, but if you act wickedly, you won't receive those blessings. Likewise, someone can come and they may have never grown up knowing this information, but if they apply those ways, then you are in the family now. You are an Israelite or a Jew or a whatever title you want to call it. You know what I mean? High ranking more, or you're basically on the righteous side. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. Now you.
I like that summary.
I,
That's yeah,
I
great
got a
summary, man.
question.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine.
I got a question for Mafia or anyone that can chime in. I've been doing a little studying on the scripture and everything, and I've noticed one thing. I've noticed out of all the stories, like, why was they like having relations with family? Like, I don't understand that concept, and I'm trying to figure it out from a spiritual level. Like, cause I feel like having a relationship with a family member is not the right thing to do. So why was they doing it back? They was doing it like that to keep the bloodline untainted. I'm not trying to sound weird in no freaking way, bro, because like I don't even play that. But I'm just saying it's mad weird. Like they was marrying cousins and all this stuff like this. Like, why was they doing that? I understand from like breeding dogs or whatever, you do that to keep the bloodline strong, but that's an animal. We talking about human beings now. Like, I'm very confused with that. And if somebody can help me with that, that'd be greatly appreciated. And I yield.
Yeah, yeah. I would say when I'm, because I study the word a lot. That's what I love. That's what I do. I don't see a lot of incest relationships in there. And when you go through, the laws or the commandments and the covenant, there are commandments in there, like, not to, sleep with your mother or your brother or your sister or things of that nature. So I would say, yeah, if you do see it happening, maybe there was you know, uh, they made a mistake in there and they have to, ask forgiveness, just like, when any of us, do something out of line. But I would tell you from studying it, you will not see like a bunch of the prophets or a bunch of righteous people, having incest with their brothers and sisters and stuff like that. So I hope that helped you out.
I'm more talking, brother, along the lines of like the Adam and Eve story, like in the garden and everything. Like they was marrying sisters and all that, like all of that stuff I studied on and I found out. So that's why I was just trying to like wondering, like, what's up with that? Like that ain't right. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
I understand that coming into more science, a lot of things that I grew up thinking was correct are incorrect. But some things just don't resonate with me. Like I can't flip it upside down because it don't resonate with my soul, my guy. That's what I'm trying to say. So I was just trying to figure out if anybody who has a little more knowledge than me can help me understand that concept of it, because that concept to me is wrong. I wouldn't do it. And I don't think
Yeah.
nobody on the group chat would do it either, but it was being done.
remember too.
Right.
That's why I know it's a lot of information. But we have covered this maybe about a month and a half ago. It was a 51 questionnaire we went over, and for 1 degree of Adam and Eve is short for evolution, and Adam is just that, of Adam. So the evolution of an atom is going to give you life. That's 1 degree of understanding that you need to know. But the other aspect is mankind, or what we call the Slav. Uh, they came after original man. That story is about them as well. That's another degree.
And I would add, when you go into, a lot of people call it the Old Testament, but the Most High calls it His covenant. And I would say your instincts is right, brother Hassan, because when you read in the covenant, like I said, in there is commandments of us not to do that, not to sleep with your brother or your sister or your mother or your father. So I would say when you reading that, that's just, lessons to learn from. That's not something that you can go in the covenant and the Most High is saying, oh yeah, you guys should do that. That's not in the covenant at all. So like if you seeing that, you see that as, something just to learn from it, something that we shouldn't repeat. And I yield.
And look what brother Benjamin Bay put something in the chat. Metaphysical meaning of Eve. Take a look at that. Because think about
Yeah,
that story.
I was gonna say also, bro. The story is also symbolic. C. Freeman L does a great demonstration too on it, on how Eve basically represents the mother, Adam representing the father, or the male energy or the feminine energy coming together and creating man, or creating life or a life source, right? Because dealing with the Holy Trinity through Christianity, the Holy Ghost, the Father and the Son, is a corruption of the original um, father, mother, and child, which makes up the kunta, or the triangle, or that pyramid shape, right? Which is the true symbolic meaning of God, or the Elohim. Because whenever you add the im in Hebrew, it's a plural. So if that kind of helps. But you can also check out C. Freeman L. and he'll give you like the rundown of the Moorish science and Masonic connection to it as well.
Islam, appreciate that.
Or in a Kemetic sense, it would be Isis, Horus, and Osiris. But yeah.
Now, Brother Hassan, look how many degrees, because it's that many, right? I started off by saying Eve is short for evolution of the atom. The brothers say we're talking about how that's how life is created, right? Man and woman is how you create that evolution of the atom in 9 months, right? And now we got also the metaphysical aspect of dealing with just the man and what woman represent, right? Man, the will, the ego, or masculine energy versus not man and woman, but masculine versus feminine energy. What characteristics does a masculine have? And intuition, wisdom, feminine. So that's another aspect of it. When you eat,
oh, go ahead, Muffy. My fault. I'll wait.
Yeah, when they ate that fruit and they woke up, they got this consciousness now, right? That's the wisdom that you get from the harmony of the yin and the yang, or the man and woman combining. Now you see what life is about. Consciousness is harmonious. There's harmony, right? The garden itself represents the consciousness. They ate from the fruit of the consciousness. So now they're conscious. Right? They ate from the fruit of consciousness. They ate from the tree of life or the fruit of consciousness. So hopefully all that helped. No, go ahead, brother. I think Kyle was going to say something. Kyle, you got something? Am I muted? Can everybody hear me?
So basically,
yeah, I hear you.
Okay. So when we talk about the tree of the knowledge tree, whatever you want to call it, right? That's symbolic. It's not necessarily like they learned something they weren't supposed to know. Like I'm like, so what was they supposed to be? Just like innocent and not green and just not know nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm getting confused a little bit here because that Genesis story, basically, when mankind was created, they were just supposed to be naive to all the good and the bad. They just were supposed to be neutral type. What I'm kind of vibe I'm getting, they just supposed to be neutral. So once they figured out the game, then the Most High was like, man is like us. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that they know the knowledge of good and evil. You know what I'm saying? And like what I'm learning right now is like lifting the veil off my eyes on everything. But it's like, why they put it like we wasn't supposed to be that way originally? Like, you know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, all of us here, even though we learned more with science as we grew in life, but all of us here probably grew up in the trap like Christianity or Catholic or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I just have a hard time within myself. I'm not saying I'm discouraged, but sometimes I question certain things. I don't always just question, the stuff that I've learned that I thought was right. I also question the logic of where my life is going now, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's only healthy for me because I can only speak for myself. When I don't say or I don't do certain things, I have a battle within myself, and I don't like that. I like to release everything so I can think about it with a clear head and let the universe guide me in the correct direction, if I'm making sense. And I yield.
I would like to add on what you say. I think that on that situation, I don't think it was like the Most High was trying to hold information back from us. I think it was more of a test of basically of trusting the Most High and obedience, because the Most High, he wants everything good for us. And when you go through the situation of him giving the instruction not to do it, like a father to us, because he's a father to us. So it's like when you're a father to your son or your daughter and you telling them not to do something, they might not fully understand it, but you understand it because your knowledge is way further than theirs. So when he was telling them not to do something and she got a voice in her ear from a serpent or whoever that, oh, that's not true. The Most High is trying to play you. Now you have now you have an energy that is telling you that, or testing you, that you shouldn't really trust me. And so then you put that into action, and he's telling you like, yo, I got you, but you're supposed to trust me. And when you don't trust me, eventually then you have certain setbacks or punishments that you have to go through. Because the Most High is all controlling. He could easily make us all just do what he wants us to do like robots. But we have free will. And the Most High is saying who will freely love me and who will freely trust me. So when I'm looking through the word and I'm studying through the word, again, like we're supposed to learn from our ancestors and take it further. We're supposed to see the mistakes that David or any of our ancestors or Adam and Eve or whoever that they made, and now we're supposed to take it further. So that's how I see it. I don't see it as the Most High was holding information back for us. It was just like, yo, you wasn't ready for it, and I'm testing you because you're supposed to listen and you're supposed to fully trust me, your source of everything. And now you.
Islam, brother.
Islam. I got one thing to say about this topic. Adam and Eve and the Genesis, I believe, was brought up, and marriage was brought up, and it gets me to thinking about how the atom is like the smallest molecule or part in existence, and in that is a space of I guess light energy, which could be represented as an essence of God, and outside those atoms make up in our bodies at least, the first gene, which is the mitochondria Eve, and the serpent in that aspect can be an introduction to that body or that temple, which is, the home of God, um, could be interpreted as parasites, which are foreign by law, legal definition, to not only the body, but the environment. And the story of Genesis being a genetic, symbolic tale to mankind coming from man, because under the Moorish paradigm, I self-law and master, and the great guidance of the Creator is in this theory outside of the realm of creation, but holding jurisdiction over the realm of creation. So everything in creation pretty much has to go through a guidance, and things that were created by creation, which, like, if we're created by God and we created something, which we have in history, which was the uh the RNA gene, pretty much I believe that story is guidance for mankind by its legal proposed definition, and also guidance for man who may have remembered, their or lost their ways that we once walked by. But I yield.
Brother Hassan, from my point of view too, man, I would say that I can't really attest to the incest part, but just for the story of Genesis, just remember that the Bible is a science book. You know what I mean? It's supposed to uplift the mind, but also, um, we also have to come back down to earth. So I actually did a study on that before on the Genesis book, and I'll just say from my perspective, but simple enough to me. Um, as we know that our societies have been turned from matriarchal to patriarchal. For me, one thing that stood out to me is that how Adam came before Eve, which I never agreed with, and one thing that kind of led me away from that as being absolute reality, and that it was a science book and that it was metaphysical, was the fact that each and every one of human beings across the entire planet has one specific mark on their body that is indisputably a symbol that you did not come from the father. You came from the mother, and that's your belly button. everybody has a belly button in which he was connected to an umbilical cord. So, and you've never seen a man without a belly button, or known a man that come from a man. And that's why I say, if you look at C. Freeman L's breakdown of it, I think you'll understand the metaphysical or the higher science part of what you're supposed to gather from Genesis, and how Genesis basically on a Masonic level and a more science level, which is what Masonry is, right? So on a Masonic level, you're talking about the creation of man through sound and vibration, which is why God is talking, or he's speaking in the beginning of the book. But that's kind of like a segue into what I'm going to show anyway today. But yeah.
Wow. All right.
God. It's gone.
All right, so I'm gonna share the screen. You can get started, Brother Kyle L. All right, there you go. I got the email up. Peace and love, Yazir Bay too, man. Peace and love.
There it is. All right, hold on. I'm just getting over to where so I did a slight presentation of this on my Facebook page. So just so everything is formatted how I wrote it, I'm gonna just read from what I wrote, and then I can answer any questions in between too. So we start off with the etymology of God, and where does this word come from, right? So God, or the word God, is what I'm referring to, is the one supreme being or the creator in all religions, which is a misconception and it's false. We see that God mainly pertains to, in the etymology, the Christian God. So digging further, the word turns from a noun to a verb transitive. So we scroll down and go to the second portion of the etymon, or what we know as to be the matrix or the mother. We see that it turns from a noun to a verb transitive, to invoke or to call upon, which Grand Sheik has already went over in plenty of lessons. So we also see that its origin, if we scroll down again to the next slide, we find that it says originally it was a neuter noun in its Germanic use. The gender shifted to masculine after the coming of Christianity. So we see that Christianity was the birth of the patriarch, right? So a neuter noun basically means that it was neither feminine nor masculine. It was just, if you were to say the cat or the dog, it would just be the cat or the dog until you added something to it, basically a modifier, which is an adjective, to give it more inclusion as to what it is. Is it feminine? Is it masculine? Same thing we do with our names. You know what I mean? You have a name that you could tell that a name is feminine or masculine based off of how it ends usually. So if we scroll down, I want to show a short video real quick. If you click on that link right there, and it's a segue into the next piece.
You want to play?
Yup.
Leviosa. Stop. You're going to take someone's eye out. Besides, you're saying it wrong. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
You do it then if you're so clever.
Go on.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Oh, well done. See here, everyone. This Granger's done it. Splendid.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Well done, dear.
I think we're going to need another feather over here, Professor.
All right, so the next part of this is basically I'm showing that in the previous post, if we go back to the email and we scroll down, so this is so you'll have a visual of what I wrote and how it's written. But so in the previous post, we discussed the etymology of God, meaning to invoke or to call upon or speak thereof. Right. In Harry Potter's first year at Hogwarts, they studied mainly the degree of grammar. Right. This is the degree that they were studying how to invoke, basically their inner self, as above, so below, as within, so without. So remember the scene where Hermione Granger told Ronald Weasley it's Leviosa, not Leviosa, which Hermione was the immaculate scholar. She knew her stuff. She basically knew her stuff down to the book, right? She was a bookworm. In the world of magic, it is also a known fact to who's ever seen this movie, it's also a known fact that you must never speak the name of quote unquote, you know who, or he who must not be named, which was Lord Voldemort, right? He was the enemy. But basically, the reason why that is because the quote unquote the God or what you invoke is a manifestation through your faith or your belief, which is why they were warning everybody not to speak his name. You know, they didn't want his name at all said, even if you were just saying it casually. But also, the ones who usually had no problem with saying it had a prior history of loyalty and faith in the quote unquote the Dark Lord, right? So with anyone saying his name casually creates the atmosphere and chance for his existence or his return. So we know that dark and Dark Lord, we know that dark will be the noun modifier, which is the adjective, and Lord will be the noun, or God in the sense of invoking will be a verb transitive. So in other words, what you decide to invoke or speak thereof can manifest based off the level of directed intention through faith, belief by yourself or within a group. And through wand-like words can strengthen or fasten the manifestation into existence by cause and effect, right? So the wand is basically your antenna, was basically his antenna to his God, his inner God, right? So basically, they're being taught how to invoke things, but they're at a low vibration because they're first year students. So the wand he's using is helping him charge his intention and focus his intention to direct maximum result. But when you get into, if you read the books or you get into studying the movie, you notice that all the elders or the older wizards and witches, they don't necessarily need wands to produce magic. You know what I mean? They can produce this stuff off of an intention or just mere thought. The only time when they really use wands is really when they're in a battle or they're looking to cast a charm that's heavy or a spell that's heavy enough that they need to destroy something or protect something at maximum command, right? So what you summon with intention or invoke, the wand is an antenna to help the charge of it until eventually your vibration is high enough. Hence, I put this ladder here for a reason, okay? So to no longer need the wand, which we needed only to produce maximum result, or like I said, or for a big enough spell or for a charm. Okay, so this is the reason why it stood out to me though, just in its entirety, is just due to us getting into civics, or me myself getting into civics and understanding some of the parallels and the important things that I've seen demonstrated by Grand Sheik Mafiel, and especially Brother Larry Bay, the importance of words and knowing where to utilize words. So it's a difference as if someone's to call in and say, hey man, this guy robbed me. Okay, well that would just be, that's a neuter noun, right? The guy robbed me. Okay, what guy? The wand that they're adding to it would be the black guy, which would automatically cast a spell or how can I say, of a vision of what our statistics are usually made of, right? So the fact that they can put these statistics to our people or these images through movies, through music, through the way that we talk to one another and the way that we engage with one another, and it's usually always violent or it's usually always attacking one another. they can amplify the magic or what they're expelling onto us through the source or through the use of wand-like words, through the inner self, our inner understanding of what God is. So God meaning to invoke. So what you invoke, we have to also be careful. You know what I mean? Like, and I guess, oh yeah, scroll down right there. Yeah, and so today's demonstration, what people were saying today just went hand in hand. So I guess like everything was just meant to be reflected today. So it's really dope to see that. So, but right here, what you're looking at, man, this is a picture of a Masonic staircase, right? This is heavily implemented into the second degree, right? So if you look at the top staircase, you see these 7 steps. On these 7 steps, the first step you see is grammar, right? Which is basically, we talked about God and invoking, right? At the highest step, you see astronomy, right? In another sense, you would actually see heaven and earth. The heaven that you're talking about is the heaven in your astronomy, your mind, at the pinnacle or the top of the ladder, which is where you've reached perfected man symbolically, right? The bottom step is grammar. You know, this is where that where Noble Drew Ali shows in the Circle 7 Quran about the dark, murky ethers and that lower vibration. But, at one point in time in the Circle 7 Quran, it also speaks about David defeating Goliath. And basically, you would be able to turn your lower desires or your lower vibrations into a mirrored reflection of your higher self, right? Which is a Sufi practice, and which is why we do zikr in the Sufi schools, right? So your grammar basically is your first introduction to God before you get into that higher consciousness state of mind and you reach a level of astronomy to where you can master things through thought instead of just speaking them. That's my full presentation. That's it.
That's beautiful, man.
Loved it.
And like you just said, that's what I talked about in the beginning. Yeah, you go to the Masonic Lodge, you're gonna see the winding staircase and things of that nature. But the brother tied it in. So the 360 degrees of that, the situation. Um, any thoughts on that before I go into the Circle 7 and close out in prayer?
No, great. That was very, very informative. It tied everything back into exactly what we were talking about today, elevating and to our pineal gland and how to use that power. This was great. Thank you, Islam brother.
Yeah, Islam, Kyle, that was a good presentation, brother.
Islam, thank you
for fire presentation, Islam.
Yeah, thank you for that, Islam.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
And back to Psalms 23:4. We're talking about that staff or that wand. That's another degree of that shepherd's crook. Is the wand. It's also the wand, right? And it's talking about what the brother was talking about. Because when you have that staff, often with a crook, it was used to guide and support. Right? Now we guides you to the higher faculties of yourself, to the heavens of yourself, to invoke. The imagery is vividly captured in Psalm 23:4, where David writes, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me." So we're talking about tools that we have already that we can use to ascend. Right? I wanted to drill that home too. So I'll close out here with the chapter in the Quran. So this is chapter 37. The breath of heaven, the holy breath, breath of heaven. Vaunt not thy body, because it was first formed, nor thy brain, because therein thy soul resideth. Is not the master of the house more honorable than its walls? And that's back to we control the car. The car doesn't control us. We get in, turn the key. We tell the car what to do. We tell the body what to do. The body's not supposed to tell us what to do. Isn't the master of the house more honorable than the house itself? Right? The ground must be prepared before corn must be planted. No crops are getting planted. No harvest gonna happen unless you work with the ground and put some work in. That's the first degree before you get to the other degree of this blossoming fruit. You got to prepare the ground first. The potter must build his furnace before he can make the porcelain. As the breath of heaven saith unto the waters of the deep, this way shall thy billows roll, and no other. Thus high and no higher shall thy rise their fury. So let thy spirit, O man, actuate and direct thy flesh. So let it repress its wilderness. So we're talking about the wilderness again, right? That's in a lot of holy books, the wilderness. This is symbolic to the murky ethers of your lower self. Thy body is as global of the earth. Thy body is as global of the earth. Thy bones, the pillars that sustain it on its basis. As the ocean give rise to springs, those waters return again into a bosom through the rivers. So runneth thy life from thy outwards, and so runneth it into its place again. Is not thy nose the channel to perfumes, thy mouth the path to delicacies? Are not thine eyes the sentinels that watch for thee? Yet how often are they unable to distinguish truth from error? So you can see stuff, but can you really see? That just depends where you at vibratorily or vibrational at the moment, right? Based on what you know, the trials and tribulations you went through. Everybody got eyes, but everybody sees on different levels, right? Different degrees. Keep thy soul in moderation. Teach thy spirit to be attentive to its good. So shall these ministers be always to the conveyance of the truth. Thine hand is not a miracle. Thine hand, is it not a miracle? The fact that we can, we're having this experience. Is there in the creation aught unlike unto? So it's only one fingerprint. Nobody else has your fingerprint. That makes you unique. Wherefore was it given thee, but that thou might stretch it out to the assistance of thy brother? So not only are you unique, but you're here to demonstrate humanity, right? Unite the community, especially if you've been called upon with the info. If you're part of the 144,000, now you see what your purpose is, right? Why of all things living art thou alone made capable of blushing? The world shall read thy shame upon thy face, therefore do nothing shameful. Fear and dismay, which robs thy countenance of its rudder splendor, avoid guilt, and thou shalt know that fear is beneath thee, and dismay is unnamely. Wherefore, to thee alone speak shadows in the vision of the pillow. Reverence them, for know that dreams are from on high. Thou man alone can't speak. Wonder at thy glorious prerogative, and pay to him who gave it to thee a rational and welcome praise, teaching thy children wisdom, instructing the offspring of thy loins in piety. The breath of heaven. A chapter that screams self-mastery, a chapter that screams understanding your experience in this physical form, what it's about, We are our brother's keeper, especially if we have this divine information. We have the tools to unite humanity and do some great work. The breath of heaven. Any thoughts, statements on this chapter before we close out here? Let's close out with the prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Amen. Islam. Who all on here? Peace and love, everybody. Benjamin Bay, Yazir. Peace and love, Yazir Bay. I've seen you in here, but peace and love. So we got Saturday. You got something, Hanuna? You finna say something?
Oh no, I'm good.
But just real quick, we got the third Saturday. We have a physical event. It's gonna be at the beach.
Do you know what the weather's gonna be like?
No, I don't. That's the plan right now. If the weather is still, if it's gonna be good, we'll double check. I guess we'll figure it out we should know by Monday or something. I guess the forecast. Mm-hmm. And then I want to reiterate, like I said last week, anybody that want to do some fundraising at the Crunch Gym, let me know about that as well. Anything else? Forgetting thought statement?
Let's see, April, May. I guess there's an event that we're going to with Santa Ana. It's supposed to be in June. It's actually going to be in July now. So just something to kind of keep in the back of our minds. Anyone that could come out. It's called the 714 event. And my coworker is going to have Mafi speak. And I think you're going to perform too. Mm-hmm. And then July 28th, you're going to go to the courthouse.
Oh, yeah.
Ticket?
Yeah, courthouse of July
28th.
And then I guess, this Thursday we do, I got invited by King L. They're having a poetry and open mic type situation Thursday at 8 o'clock on Long Beach. I'll be there as a guest performance. But yeah, I guess any thoughts, statements, comments from anybody before we close out here?
One more thing, just an update. So for the land trust, me and Mafi have a meeting with the Community Land Trust Network. So this is people that are in California that have created land trusts already. So I've joined the network to get like some assistance with like information, where people are headed to and their community land trust, and how we can pretty much start patching ours together. So we have a meeting on Wednesday about the application we had put in. So just wanted to give everyone like an update.
Heard. All right, no problem. That's good.
All right. Well, peace and love to everybody. Hope everybody has a good rest of their weekend. And Islam.
All right, peace and love, everybody. Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Mhm.